Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. So President Biden yesterday delivered some more remarks on Afghanistan, and much of his comments pertain to the evacuation of U.S. Servicemen, as well as needy Afghan evacuees. So the numbers that he was citing were quite extraordinary. I mean, you said something like already 30,000 have been evacuated already since August the 14th. So that's just over a week. And the process of evacuation is accelerating. Not only are military aircraft being used, but civilian aircraft being deployed. What was interesting is what he was saying, that the United States, with various partners, has established a series of processing stations in third countries. So he said that we're flying these evacuees to processing stations, they says that that these processing stations we're going to process the evacuees, and then these transit centers provide a safe place for the visa applicants and other vulnerable Afghanis and their families to complete their paperwork while we conduct security screenings and background checks before they continue on to their final destination in the United States or in other countries. And then it said many countries are part of this resettlement effort. And then he went on that I want to be clear about three things. One, planes taking off from Kabul are not flying directly to the United States. They're landing at US military bases and transit centers around the world. Number two, at these sites where they're landing, we are conducting thorough scrutiny, security screenings for everyone who is not a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident. Anyone arriving in the United States will have undergone a background check. And then number three, once screened and cleared, we will welcome these Afghans who helped us in the war effort over the past 20 years to their new home in the United States of America, because that's who we are. That's what America is. Now, what's hilarious about all of this, we're talking about, look, I mean, this is going to go on till at least August the 31st, and Biden left open the possibility of extending it beyond August the 31st. So if we're going at, say, 4,000 or 5,000 a day, that's quite a number of people that will have to be processed. The notion that somehow you can inquire into the Afghan governmental authorities, Mohammed Ahmed, who lives in, we don't know what village.
Kandahar.
Can you tell us whether Mohammed Ahmed has been engaged in any kind of terrorist activities? So this is absolute nonsensical, because even if you were able to ascertain that, oh yeah, Mohammed Ahmed has engaged in some terrorist activities, you will not be able to deport them from the country. For a very simple reason. They're going to go to the court and say, if I go back to Afghanistan, I'm facing the death penalty. You can't send me back there. And that's it. It cannot happen. So once they're out of the country and they're in these transit centers, there is absolutely no way they're going to be sent back. And of course, there is no way that they can just stay indefinitely at these transit centers. I mean, these aren't, there's supposed to be work going on at these places. So the Biden plan seems absolutely ridiculous, but the media kind of like all of this. They think, oh, great, this is wonderful humanitarianism, but this is a plan that is doomed to disaster. A kind of repetition of 2015 is on the cards. All right, Peter, what was your take?
It means if you can get on the plane, you got your ticket.
You've got your ticket, exactly.
Okay, it's chain of custody. Once you're in the chain of custody, you made it, okay? Obviously, neither one of us can predict the future, but this bodes very badly for the future. Right. I'm sorry, okay?
Right.
And what it is that this ridiculous, unthought out plan is just to soothe liberals in America. That's all it is, okay?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, the absurdity for me, we've got a plan, okay? Well, finally, okay, good. But you know, contrast to the southern border plan. I mean,
yeah.
Absurd.
Yes. That's it. Yeah.
You know, you can just walk across. Is get on an airplane in Kabul. I mean, there's no immigration law here.
No, I think that's right. I mean, and that was really the problem going back in 2015, because once they arrive, and no one ever arrives with any papers, then that's it. You don't know what you're supposed to do. I mean, you bring them in and then you say, well, okay, well, you can stay here temporarily while we check on your status. And if we find that you have violated something or other, you will be deported. But of course, nobody is deported. All that happens is that you just lock this up in the courts forever. And that's in fact what happened after 2015. And so this is exactly what the Biden plan is. And then it's of a piece with what's going on at the border. I mean, you're just basically letting people in, by the hundreds of thousands without any real protection for the people that you are supposed to be protecting, namely the people who had actually voted you into office and want you to exercise power on their behalf.
Well, I'm sorry. People are going to call me heartless. I don't see the obligation here. No. I don't see it at all. People make their choices. Okay. Why should the American taxpayer have to bear the cost of someone else's choice?
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. And then you could say, look, I mean, the Taliban, after all, whether you believe them or you haven't believed them, they'll say, okay, we're offering an amnesty. Okay, it may all be just a pack of lies, but nonetheless, I mean, since the Americans are kind of working with the Taliban, it's not something we're going to wholly discount and say, oh, no, anybody at all who has any connection with anything, we are obligated to take them out of the country. I mean, if that's the case, then why even bother listening to the Taliban, and demand that they offer amnesty? I mean, well, why bother? I mean, they've done. I mean, it's more than what the Ukrainian authorities have done. Ukrainian authorities have not offered an amnesty to everyone who has fought against them.
So this whole fiasco, this 20-year fiasco, was to secure Afghanistan by making sure it could not export terrorism into the neighborhood and around the world. And now we're letting in tens of thousands of people that are completely unvetted.
Right.
I mean, talk about a security threat. I'm not making any claim against any person, okay? But I'm just saying in principle here, at a time when you're heightened terrorist threat, you hear that all the time. The war on terror 2.0. And then, well, just open up the gates and let the chips fall.
It's a very good point. Exactly. You have a war on terror. So let's bring in a few 100,000 people who we know absolutely nothing about. And then, of course, again, we've got the war on COVID. Let's bring all these people in, who are carrying contagious diseases. And as you say, it's something that's making people feel good about themselves. In Europe as well, you've got the British government. Oh yeah, let's say we have an obligation to these Afghans who have helped us. And what obligation? I mean, they went in there with a crazy, demented notion, stayed on for 20 years, and now, your people are going to have to suffer the consequences. I mean, after all, the British and the American governments made that decision to stay on after 2001, after they've already driven out Al Qaeda. That was their decision. Why should everyone have to then pay for this, for that ridiculous decision?
Another thing in the speech that I found just absolutely absurd is that, well, if we don't get everyone out, then we'll move the deadline. Okay, I mean, what
That's a very good point.
What kind of rationality is this here? They don't have any cards to play.
Right.
They don't.
No.
And I do not believe, I've watched a lot of footage, probably like you have here. It's disorderly. There's no pattern here. No one was prepared for it, apparently, including the Taliban. But I don't see, number one, considering the entire modus operandi of the Taliban is to get rid of foreigners. So why would they keep foreigners in Kabul, particularly Americans? Okay. Number two, if it was a la Fox News, which has just completely lost its mind, if the greatest hostage situation in modern history. Oh, and Sean Hannity, day 7 of hostage, that's how he starts his program. Well, where are the hostage videos?
Right.
Where are the demands? Where are they?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I'm sure it's not a walk in the park to get to the airport because a civil war is coming to an end. It's complete chaos, okay?
Right.
And everybody is at fault for that. That's how war is, folks, okay? But I don't see any evidence that particularly American citizens and their dependents are not being allowed to get out. Might not be easy to get to the airport, but once you get there, 37,000 already. How many people are there? Okay, and that's one of the things that really sickens me is the Lindsey Grahams and the Fox News. Americans are hunkering down, but they hyping it all the time. Okay,
Right.
I'm not discounting that people are having difficulties getting out. I'm sure they are. Okay,
Right.
but let's get the hyperbole out. Okay,
But I think it's right. And really, when you think about it, look, the Doha Agreement was signed in February 2020. So that's already 18 months ago. Now, if you were in Afghanistan, let's say you're an American or a Western businessman, you kind of knew the writings on the wall. You had 18 months to prepare. It's like you're given an eviction notice from the city marshal. It'll come into effect in 18 months. So you've got 18 months in order to prepare to find somewhere else to go to. So you can't then turn around, well, what are we going to do now? Send in the American military aircraft to get us out. So, a lot of it is just simply they hadn't prepared. Neither the UK government nor the US government, they hadn't done any preparation, even though there was a good chance that this collapse would occur. We didn't know it would be that fast. All right, you didn't know it would be that fast.
Bullshit.
You knew it would be. You knew it would be quite fast.
I don't buy that at all. I think General Milley and the rest of them should just be absolutely fired because they're lying through their teeth. Okay, they're lying through their teeth. I don't believe any of them. Okay. Joe Biden has put himself into he's in this really bizarre, convenient position is that he just doesn't know. He's senile. He in a weird way gets a pass from a lot of people because he didn't mean to say that we don't have any troops in Syria. Okay, he didn't mean that. Okay, what does he mean here? Okay, right. And people are taking advantage of it here. Again, we've made numerous videos upon this. The domestic politicization of this is just nauseating. It's just absolutely nauseating. Okay, and what now? And then the new trope out there is that Al Qaeda is in league with the Taliban and ISIS and all. No one shows any proof of this at all. Right. Not one iota of evidence at all of what's going on now. Yes, they had a history. Yes, they did. Al Qaeda and the Taliban. Yes, they did have a history. There's no evidence they have that now. Oh, and the Northern Alliance is going to be, no, it's not. Maybe one day, but not right now.
Right.
This whole thing was a money machine fantasy, okay? And now they want to do is put another layer of fantasy on top of it here. The American public, Western publics are served so badly by these ideologues in the media.
Right. No, I think that's right. And I think that all the talk about extending the deadline beyond August the 31st, this is extremely reckless talk because up until now, the Taliban have been quite cooperative and that no one has complained that they haven't been cooperative. Once we get beyond the August the 31st deadline, then it's hard to see why the Taliban should want to be cooperative, because, you know, I think they're going to look back and say, well, what does this mean? When are you actually planning on leaving? September the 11th, September the 30th, December the 31st? I mean, in other words, if you once you get beyond this deadline, then ultimately, you know, they're going to think you're planning to stay forever. And then I think then the Taliban will not be cooperative. Now, maybe there are people who are hoping that the Taliban will not be cooperative. That will provoke some kind of a clash between US and forces and the Taliban, and that will provide the rationale for a prolonged stay. That may well be the demented thinking that's taking place.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be endlessly attacked for what I'm about to say, but the Taliban have played their cards pretty well to date. Okay, they have achieved their objective. Took them 20 years. So George, if we see more foot dragging, then a nightmare scenario can come into play. The Taliban will just round up Americans and send them to the airport. Okay, right. And of course, you know how that will be played. Okay, right. So but. There's no negotiation over the date. They already missed Trump's date, okay? Right. And now this one here. No, you don't have the leverage. You don't have the leverage to do it. If you want your people out, communicate with them, get them to the airport, and get out. That's all.
No, that's right.
At this point, that's all they've said they've wanted at this point.
Right. No, I think that's right, and that's why, you know, the United States just doesn't have the forces on the ground to affect any kind of serious resistance to the Taliban. So it's like, so, you know, if they get into a shooting war, the United States will then have to think in terms of, you know, bringing in tens of thousands of fresh forces. I mean, you know, there is simply no one has any plans to do. That's why all this talk is so absurd, because there is no mandate for any kind of a return to Afghanistan.
As far as I understand, I could be wrong here, there are only 2 airstrips at the airport, okay? I mean, just logistically speaking, I mean, right. What are they going to do, stand on top of each other?
Right, well, yeah, that's right. And so, yeah, go on.
I mean, from a tactical point of view, I mean, you want to mass all of your resources in one small area. You and I aren't generals, but that seems like a bad idea to me.
Yes. No, that's right. I mean, there's a lot of kind of empty talk, particularly coming from Great Britain. Now, you know, you have government ministers who, you know, apparently saying, well, we can't rely on the Americans; they're completely, useless. You know, and then it took them years before they got into World War I, years before they got into World War II. I mean, the idea of government ministers are now recycling British resentments over the delayed entrance of the Americans in World War I and II. Just shows how ludicrous it is. I mean, last week we had a senior Tory backbencher talking about Suez. I mean, you're talking about, you know, how your British resentment over Suez. I mean, this is just nuts, because ultimately, if the British really want to go fight the Taliban, no one is stopping them. Hey, guys, you know, pack you know, an aircraft carrier, you know, or you want to, or send in your transport planes, and you can go and fight the Taliban. No one's doing it. So all this is such ridiculous posturing. Whoa, we can't rely on our American allies. You know, we got to start thinking for ourselves. You know, we have got to take over the leadership of the world. We British, we're the global leaders again.
Yeah, when they were on their knees and needed Lend-Lease, huh? Okay, now you're going to take on the world. Yeah, I'm sure they're still bruising over that. You know,
all of this. Yeah,
they gave us those 50 old destroyers. We gave up territory. We gave up real estate.
That's it. All these things just simply bubble up to the surface. I haven't heard this one about the delayed entry into World War I and World War II for a long time. I mean, you know, 50, 60 years ago, people used to talk like that, but bringing this up now.
Well, now we're getting to the root of the special relationship.
Right, root of the special relationship. Of course, you know,
another thing that's really interesting for me, and now that you're bringing up the UK, a member of NATO, it's it's just amazing to me how foolish NATO appears right now.
Oh, it
They look
does.
so foolish because they're just tools that they are, and they always have been. It's always been a cover, okay, for American hegemony, international community. No, it's NATO and the Four Eyes, okay, that's what the international community for the Washington folks. But and now, NATO is squirming because before, a few weeks ago, George, you and I have done countless videos. Unity, we're strength together. All this,
Right.
and then and China is on notice.
Right,
And
right.
now they're talking to each other. You got a few extra planes so we can?
Right. Yeah, right.
Wow, there's that scary alliance there. Okay,
Yeah.
no, it's all the U.S. You've said it a million times on the gaggle here. Okay,
Right,
I mean, they just really are naked, standing in front of the world. Okay,
right.
the most successful military alliance in the history of the world. No.
Right.
You're a talk shop that has probably good brunches. Okay, that's about it.
Yeah, no, that's right. They were eager to get themselves involved in Afghanistan. I mean, so when George Bush invoked Article 5, great, NATO. Now, we've got all these new purposes in the world. That's it. We're all on board. Of course, we know they didn't do anything really in Afghanistan. It was always an American effort. But now they feel they got to make some kind of a statement, and they've got absolutely nothing to say other than, well, we're going to bring out the evacuees. but this is the point. I mean, that really, I mean, it was always a completely misconceived venture, and at no point during these 20 years did NATO ever raise this issue and say, what the hell are we doing? What is the purpose of this caper? Instead, it was all, everything's on track. We're doing a great job. Afghan women and girls, they all look up to us, and they're also grateful to us. So now they've got this fiasco on their hands.
Yeah, and these NATO generals, from all across Europe, their generals go to Kabul for a tour, and they're in an air-conditioned office watching CNN.
Right.
And then they get a little insignia, I did a tour.
Yes.
And then, who knows, was it the Dutch that, was in charge of latrines at the airport? Okay. Oh, and remember that, I'm making this all up here. I'm not getting the country right, but the Danes don't fight at night. Okay. And the Austrians, well, they don't fight in the winter. Okay. I mean, I'm serious. There were all of these caveats here. Okay. Right. And then, some of them we have to check with our union if we can, this is the third Friday of the month. We have to check if, that's within our union clause. All of this stuff here. It was a complete joke. Okay. That's it. And now they're coming around and saying, like they're the true believers. Like they embodied this mission, and it was Biden, not Trump. It was Biden that messed it all up.
That's it. We messed it all up. And then there's all this blustery talk about how, well, we've really got to get on with this European dimension. We can't rely on the Americans. It's going to be up to us. We have to do it. And it is so ridiculous, the notion that the Europeans are actually ever going to decide on a military venture. Oh yeah, the Luftwaffe. Is anyone's going to agree? Oh yeah, we'll have the Luftwaffe, bomb some country. No, this is all of this is absolute nonsense. Macron would say, Europe is, NATO is brain dead. Oh, wow, that's great. Well, what are you actually going to do about it? Well, nothing, of course, because then the Europeans will have to do something serious, that actually start spending serious money on the military. They don't want to do that. So, it's just very nice. Yes, we need a European dimension to NATO.
Yeah, I suppose that's what the Taliban are saying. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, exactly.
And, I think I keep bringing up the dollars that were wasted in this huge grift here. I want to make sure everybody understands, just for the record here, the vast majority of that $2 trillion went to contractors and went to people that supplied the Defense Department with goods and services, ammo, to missiles, to tanks. Very little for all of the nation building thing. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of NGOs that tried to do things much to no avail. But when the effort to nation build again is also a real myth. Okay, and the interesting thing is, one of the great ironies, George, is that I don't remember the number. I had it in my head this morning, but the number of paved roads that were there before 20 years ago, they were almost non-existent, okay? Now there are actually roads in Afghanistan, thanks to the American taxpayer. And you know what? Who's the biggest beneficiary? The Taliban. I mean, hey, they got the highway down. Let's roll into this province, okay? You know, we'll be back for lunch. We'll be back for lunch, okay? Before that, it could have taken 3 days to get there. Thank you, generals, okay? You're building up the infrastructure for the Taliban to crisscross the country with greater ease, okay?
Yes, no.
Nobody thinks, they don't think.
No, that's right. It's a little like, gotta remember that great movie, The Bridge on the River Kwai, where those prisoners of war, the British prisoners of war are building this great bridge. And then it never actually occurs to them, hey, that actually the Japanese are going to use this bridge to transport their soldiery. And then suddenly it's like, I didn't really think of that. You know, yeah, quite. I mean, that's what you're doing. What's a magnificent bridge. Great. Look at this handicraft. Look at this workmanship that went in. Thanks. That's good. We're gonna use this.
And you know, again, all of the military material that's left behind. Again, I want to reiterate for our viewers is that, yeah, small arms and, you know, grenades and that kind of stuff, maybe even some drones. I mean, you know, there is some technical sophistication among members of the Taliban. They do use mobile telephones, okay? They're on Twitter. Trump isn't, but they are. But most of that military hardware is just going to go to waste and be sold.
Yeah.
I lived, when I went to high school in Southern California in Orange County, I lived near the largest marine helicopter base in the world. I mean, it was vast. And you would come across some of the Marines in town on their leave and all that. You know, George, how many, I don't remember the number, but the number of people that you need just to maintain one helicopter.
Oh yeah,
it's huge.
Huge. I mean, these are very, it's a sophisticated piece of engineering. You need a lot of people who know what the hell they're doing. So yeah, it's almost completely useless. I mean, it's all of this equipment, there's absolutely nothing they're going to use. And even of the small arms, I don't know whether, what they're going to do. I mean, we've seen what happens where you just pile a lot of these grenades into a shed. What happens? Just boom, it just explodes. I mean, unless you know what you're doing with explosives and a grenade, those things that are dangerous. So yeah, I mean, I quite agree. But I think you're just going back to this issue of these migrants. I think that the Europeans and the Americans over the next 2 years are going to have a horrible disaster on their hands, as the full magnitude of the number of people who have been brought over, tens of thousands of whom they know nothing. They don't know anything about, about their backgrounds or whatever. Even if they'd worked for the Americans, they might still be basic terrorists. I mean, we simply don't know. I remember that guy, the one who was in that, who shot up all those people in that club in Florida. You know that. Omar Mateen. Omar Mateen. His father was also somebody who had to be rescued from Afghanistan. So it means nothing. The idea, well, he worked on our side. Yeah, he worked on our side, and then he's suddenly going to be filled with hatred and resentment for what you've done, for having betrayed Afghanistan or betrayed Islam or whatever. It doesn't mean anything. You're bringing over people that you know nothing about. And you have no idea what you're going to do with them, how they're going to be absorbed into a very different culture.
So you take someone that has lived all of their life in Afghanistan, even if they had contact with foreigners, then you bring them to, let's say, Newark, New Jersey. They're just going to be, regular taxpayers. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Probably vote Democrat. Be a member of the PTA.
Yeah.
I don't think so. No. If you look like the origins of the Muslim Brotherhood. These were Egyptians, they came to America and they were aghast. They found it to be such an immoral society by their standards. Right. And they went back and they said, this really is the great Satan here. Now, again, George and I are not casting aspersions on a whole group of people, whole nation of people. But if you don't vet who's coming in, right, there is a high probability that some people are going to have a very negative reaction.
Right. No, I think that's right. And I should also say, which I have to say, I only found out today, that article, which was published in the National Interest in 2017 by that writer, about the particular propensity for violent crime on the part of Afghan migrants, and particularly violent crime against women. That woman, which I did not know until today, is actually the wife of Zalmay Khalilzad, who was the US ambassador to Afghanistan, and who was the man who negotiated the Doha Accords. So she's currently married to him, so she knows something about Afghanistan. I mean, this isn't just some disinterested scholar. I mean, she knows Afghanistan, so she's writing that these people are bad news. You have to take that very seriously.
Unfortunately, George, immigration isn't a serious topic for the powers that be, it would seem. Okay, I always like a good opportunity to slam the Republican Party. You know what? Right. Where are you? Where are you? Right. There's this huge spending bill. There's an amnesty in there. Okay, what's it doing in a spending bill? Yes. Say no. Get it out. Let's do this separately.
Yep. Yeah.
This is a form of suicide. This is national suicide. I'm completely befuddled by it. Yeah, I was told today, Dima Babic, is his birthday today. He told me a number which really surprised me. We were talking about obviously what's going on in Kabul, and he said, that the Soviet Union took in 600.
I didn't know. Yeah.
I didn't know that number, 600. And some of them were extremely high. I mean, they went through the Soviet military academies and stuff like that. They become Russified, okay? Right. They spoke the language, they knew the customs. I mean, these aren't grunts from a village, okay? These people were a very high level, and they knew them well and they understood them, okay? They were vetted.
Well, that's it, exactly. The 600, that's a number that is manageable. And as you say, if they'd gone through the Soviet academies, that they knew, therefore they knew who these people were pretty well. When you're talking about, I mean, it's 100,000, 200,000, maybe more. I mean, the scale of this evacuation is quite colossal. It's clear from what Biden was saying that all hands on deck. Everybody's now engaged in this enterprise of getting people out. Why, he never explained, and no one actually asked him, why. But you're suddenly going to have all of these people on your hands, and then what? What the hell are you going to do?
And another thing that is no one is talking about, but because of its geography, it's a very porous country. The border, it's just amazingly porous. Okay, right. People start moving and they go into another country. You know what they're going to get, George? Move along, keep going, and they're going to keep moving. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're not going to say you don't belong here, and they're going to have a gun. Keep going. We're not going to kill you. Keep going.
Right. Well, that's why Greece has now put up barbed wire and its fence with Turkey, because that's what they're expecting these people to be going through. So yeah, I mean that's absolutely right. Iran the same. I mean, you suddenly you're moving your barbed wire there because this is a serious crisis. I think it's going to dwarf 2015 by the time this thing works its way through.
It's worth repeating. You and I have been talking about this ever since it started here. Is that you think this is we picked these dates. August 31st and it's over. No, this is not going to be over for a long time. Right. Okay. The political events, yes, may start slowing down and solidifying, but a lot of other things going to be in play as well. And they're playing politics in the US with it. They're just playing politics with it.
Yeah.
We're going to be dealing with this issue for a long time.
I agree. I agree.
All right, everybody, we're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. George and I have done a number of Q&As. We're going to do one right now after we finish this video here. We're doing Zoom calls with our followers. Please take a look at that on our community page. George has already done a live stream, and we decided on Thursday.
Thursday, we're going to do exactly the super chats on YouTube.
Okay, on YouTube.
A lot of
okay.
fun. Yeah.
We're going to send it out well in advance. George will be, and I will be on social media trying to drum up as much attention and awareness as possible. So we're looking forward to that. And we have the Gaggle store, so some nice goodies there. And we have a tip jar, which we appreciate if you would fill up once in a while. I mean, we do quite a few videos now. It is effort. And as George always points out, the more you put in, the better quality stuff that we can do. Okay, it's like microphones and lights and little
exactly.
things.
All the things that make it all with the production values.
Yeah, because we're not the prettiest guys in the world.
That's exactly.
Things.
Yeah, that's right. And we don't have Zuckerberg knocking on our door, or Bill Gates, or the guy at Google. I always forget his name. But in any case, so whatever.
And this guy has no money. Okay.
No, he doesn't have anything. But so whatever you can provide will be most appreciated, and we're very grateful for all of your help. And remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.